A few months ago, I needed a break from city life. I'm Mark, 35, an environmental scientist. I thought a long weekend in the woods would be perfect. I set up my tent near a nice little clearing surrounded by tall pine trees. The area was peaceful, and the air smelled fresh. But that night, things took a turn. I cooked my dinner over the fire, feeling content. But when it got dark, I heard something rustling in the trees. I shrugged it off, telling myself it was just the wind or maybe a raccoon. I crawled into my sleeping bag, trying to relax. But sleep didn't come easily. On the second night, I was jolted awake by whispers. They seemed to drift through the trees. I couldn't make out what they were saying. I lay still, my heart racing. I wanted to check outside, but I was too scared. I told myself it was just my imagination. The whispers faded, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. The third night was when everything got stranger. As I walked around my campsite, I noticed strange symbols carved into the trees. They looked foreign and intricate. I hadn't seen them before. My gut twisted with fear. Who had come here? Were they watching me? I felt eyes on me, and I quickly retreated to my tent, trying to ignore the dread creeping in. Later that night, I fell asleep again, but I dreamed of a child. I saw tiny feet running away from my tent. I woke up suddenly, confused. Outside, I found tiny, childlike footprints leading away into the woods. Panic rose in my chest. I hadn't seen any other campers, especially no kids. Where could these footprints have come from? Then the whispers returned, louder this time. I stepped outside my tent. The air felt cold and heavy. It was like the forest was alive, aware of me, and I couldn't see anything around. I turned, eyes darting from shadow to shadow, wondering what was out there. "Where are you going?" a voice whispered. I froze. The forest was silent. I called out, "Hello." No answer. I felt a chill slide down my spine, but I couldn't run. My feet felt stuck in place. I glanced back at the footprints, and they seemed to beckon me deeper into the woods. Then, out of nowhere, a loud crack echoed from the bushes adjacent to my campsite. I jumped, heart pounding in my chest. I strained to see what was there. Nothing. The forest was silent once more. I didn't know what to do. I felt trapped in a living nightmare. I couldn't shake the feeling I was not alone. I stood there, the whispers fading, but my mind racing with questions. What had I stumbled into in these woods? Who, or what, had been watching me? But as I turned back to my tent, a part of me still felt a presence lurking just beyond the shadows. The next morning, I woke up feeling the weight of the previous night's events pressing down on me. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the lingering fear. The sun filtered through the branches above, which cast dappled shadows on the ground. I convinced myself that I needed to explore, to understand what was happening around me. Maybe I'd find some answers. After a quick breakfast, I grabbed my backpack and set off in the direction of the footprints. I walked carefully, scanning the ground for any signs or more of those strange symbols. The forest seemed to watch me as I moved, branches swaying gently, almost curiously. My heart raced with each step, uncertainty gnawing at me. I followed the trail deeper into the woods, adrenaline coursing through my veins. My thoughts drifted back to the voices, the whispers. What had they meant? Who had spoken them? I dismissed every rational explanation I could think of. I concentrated hard on my surroundings, acutely aware of the silence surrounding me. Then I stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an old, decrepit cabin, barely holding itself together against the decay of nature. It was as if the forest was trying to swallow it whole. I approached cautiously, my instincts warning me against going further. The door hung slightly ajar, creaking with an invisible breeze. I hesitated. Taking a deep breath, I pushed it open. The door groaned loudly, sending a shiver down my spine. Inside, it was dark, and the air felt humid and musty. Old furniture lay strewn about, covered in dust and shrouded in shadows. My eyes darted around, searching for anything out of the ordinary. Suddenly, I noticed something on the floor, a wooden toy. A small, hand-carved car, oddly out of place among the decay. It was covered in grime, but still intact. As I picked it up, I heard a rustling outside. I froze, my stomach plummeting. I wasn't alone anymore. The whispers returned, swirling around me, echoing in the dim light. Panic surged through my veins. I dropped the toy and rushed towards the door, but before I could reach it, a child's laughter rang out, crisp and clear, cutting through the silence. I turned back, my heart pounding. A figure stood at the tree line, a small child, grinning at me. They wore tattered clothes, hair wild. I blinked, unsure if I was dreaming. The child took a step towards me, and suddenly everything went cold. I knew I had to leave. Fear gripped me tighter than ever as I sprinted back toward my campsite. Twigs snapped beneath my feet, the whispers escalating into frantic echoes. "Come back," they called. "Stay with us." I burst through the underbrush and found myself back at the clearing. But my tent wasn't where I left it. Confusion washed over me as I searched the area frantically. Instead, there was only silence. My heart dropped, it felt as if the forest had conspired to deceive me. The whispers were growing louder, surrounding me, echoing off the trees. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving behind the cabin. It was tall and twisted, a figure that melded with the deepening gloom of the woods. I felt a terror unlike anything before. I turned to run, but the presence seemed to tighten around me, as if the forest itself was trapping me. I didn't look back. I pushed through the trees, fueled by sheer fear, desperate for escape. My lungs burned, and all I could think about was the way the laughter echoed in my head. What awaited me beyond the shadows? Would I ever find my tent? Then everything went dark. I jolted awake, my heart racing. My surroundings were different. Instead of the forest, I found myself in a dimly lit space, walls made of rough wood. My head throbbed, and for a moment, I couldn't remember how I got here. Panic surged as I sat up. I was inside the cabin. The air was cooler here, thick with dust and an unfamiliar scent. The whispers were gone, replaced by a suffocating silence. I looked around, trying to make sense of my surroundings. My backpack was beside me, but the door was now shut tight. I pushed it, but it wouldn't budge. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing off the walls. No response. I stood, unsteady on my feet, and tried to gather my thoughts. The wooden car I had dropped was still on the floor, now oddly positioned directly in front of me, as if someone had placed it there while I was unconscious. As I picked it up, an idea flickered to life. The child. The laughter. What had happened? I squinted through the gloom, looking for any clue. That's when I noticed something written on the wall, barely visible in the dim light. Strange symbols, almost like the ones I had seen on the forest floor. I stepped closer, trying to decipher them. Suddenly, the door rattled. My heart leaped into my throat. I backed away, the wall pressing against my back. The door creaked open slowly, revealing nothing but the dim light filtering in from outside. I peered around the frame, half expecting to see the twisted shadow again. But there was only the forest. I hesitated. Should I stay or venture out? My instincts screamed at me to escape, but the thought of what lurked out there froze my feet to the ground. Then something caught my eye, a flicker of movement in the corner of the clearing. A small figure stood watching me through the trees. It was the child again, face obscured by shadow but unmistakably there. I called out, "Are you okay? What do you want?" The figure didn't respond, only stared, an eerie grin spread wide across their face. Fear gripped me, and I turned to make a break for it. But the moment I crossed the doorway, the whispers returned, now shrill and frantic. "Stay! Don't go!" It felt like the very air around me was trying to pull me back. I hesitated again, half considering their plea. But I couldn't stay. I bolted past the threshold. The forest engulfed me instantly, shadows clinging to my skin as I navigated the dim light of the trees. I could still see the cabin in my peripheral vision, but I didn't dare look back. I ran as fast as my legs would carry me, adrenaline pumping. Every twist and turn felt like a labyrinth closing in. The laughter echoed behind me, more than a sound it felt alive, wrapping around me. Then, I stumbled upon a small creek, its water glinting in a sliver of light. I skidded to a halt, mind racing. That was when I noticed something floating in the water. I leaned closer, breath hitching in my throat. A worn piece of cloth, marred with dirt and dark streaks, was caught in the current. My heart dropped as I recognized the fabric. It was part of my shirt, torn from the night before. The realization hit me like a punch. I wasn't just running from the woods. I was running from something that was coming for me. I turned back to the path, the shadows now feeling much more alive. No more delays. I needed to put as much distance between me and that cabin as possible. But when I turned, I saw the child standing at the water's edge, their grin wider than ever. "You can't leave," they whispered, sunlight glinting off their eyes in a way that sent chills through me. My breath quickened as I felt the pull of their gaze. That wasn't just a child. There was more behind that innocent facade. I had to escape. There was no more time for second-guessing. I ran, but this time, I didn't just run from the cabin. I ran from the shadows that seemed to stretch longer and longer with every breath I took. The forest was alive with the sounds of rustling leaves and distant calls of unseen creatures. My heart raced as I sprinted down the creek, each step splashing cold water against my legs. The child's voice echoed in my mind, taunting me. "You can't leave." What did that mean? I forced myself to focus on escape, weaving through the trees like a hunted animal. Branches scraped against my skin and low-hanging vines snagged at my clothes. Just when I thought I had a handle on the direction, I stumbled upon a clearing that felt unnervingly familiar. Panic creeped in. I had been here before. I turned in circles, trying to spot anything resembling the path I'd just come from, but all I found were trees and shadows. I felt trapped, like the forest had folded in around me. That child's laughter echoed again, high-pitched and mocking. I covered my ears, desperate to drown it out. Then I saw it, a towering tree at the far edge of the clearing, its trunk twisted and knotted, resembling the figure of a person. I took a few cautious steps toward it. My gut twisted with unease, but the whispers had quieted, and a strange curiosity tugged at me. What was it about that tree? Why did it feel like it was watching me? As I got closer, I spotted more symbols carved into its bark familiar, just like the ones from the cabin. They seemed to pulse with an unseen energy. I traced my fingers over one, and an electric shock traveled up my arm. The ground beneath my feet shuddered, and dark yellow eyes blinked open within the tree trunk. I stumbled back, mouth dry. "What are you?" I breathed, but the tree didn't answer. Instead, shadows poured from the base of the tree, slithering toward me like a living thing. I turned to run again, but found I was blocked. The child stood at the edge of the clearing, arms tossed wide in welcome, the grin on their face impossibly wide. "You're just like us now," they called, voice sweet but dripping with something sinister. "What do you mean?" I shouted, panic rising again. My chest felt tight, suffocating. The child took a step closer, their form flickering, half in shadow, half in light. "You're part of the forest. You can't escape." I felt the press of branches curling behind me. I needed a way out. In desperation, I lunged to the left but collided with something solid, a wall of shadows that wrapped around me, pulling me back. I struggled, but they tightened their hold. Then, beneath the chaos, I saw something shimmer in the dirt at my feet. A small, metal object gleamed, a compact mirror. I reached down, instincts kicking in. As my fingers brushed against it, images flashed before my eyes, faces, laughter, echoes of a life I thought I knew, now distorted. I glanced back up. The child was watching, their eyes wide, intensity deepening. I didn't understand what I was seeing, but one thing became clear: the mirror held a truth, perhaps the key to my escape. The shadows pressed in closer, whispering, hissing. I clutched the mirror tightly. I had to make a choice. I either faced the truth of what I was becoming or succumbed to this twisted fate. As the weight of the decision loomed over me, the forest darkened, and I knew something was coming. Something that wouldn't let me leave without a fight. I took a shaky breath, the mirror feeling heavy in my palm. I had to make a choice. As the shadows danced around me, I sensed their hunger. I couldn't let them take me. That child's laughter rang in my ears, urgent and mocking. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block it out, but the sound spiraled, weaving its way into my mind. Then, the mirror flickered to life. My heart dropped. It showed me fragments of the forest, views from the treetops and paths I hadn't taken. But there was something else, a faint outline in the glass, a figure watching me from afar. Every instinct told me to turn and look, but I didn't want to see. Use it, the child urged, their voice slithering into my thoughts. Show them you understand. With a sudden burst of determination, I opened my eyes and raised the mirror, aimed at the shrouded figures that surrounded me. The shadows halted. I saw them more clearly now, faces twisted with malice, eyes dull and lifeless. Get away! I shouted, feeling the warmth of the mirror against my fingers. I know what you are. The shadows writhed, shrieking in anger. The child took a step back, surprise crossing their face. You shouldn't have done that. I didn't know how, but the mirror began to pull energy from the forest. The symbols on the tree glowed brighter, and the air buzzed with intensity. I could see the fear in the shadows. They didn't want me to break free. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, more violently this time. I stumbled, nearly losing my grip on the mirror, and glanced up. The towering tree was shifting, its bark cracking as if trying to break free from something deep within. The yellow eyes blinked wildly, and a guttural roar emerged from the trunk. No! I yelled, panic surging through me. Leave me alone. The ground split open beside me, a dark chasm forming. I had to decide: stay and face whatever evil was buried beneath the roots, or take my chance with the shadows creeping closer. The child's voice sounded again, now desperate. You don't know what you're giving up. But that was the crux of it, wasn't it? I didn't know. The mirror flashed images of my life, laughter, warmth, moments that felt distant. I understood now: the forest wanted to claim me, to make me one with them. But I couldn't let that happen. I took a step toward the chasm, heart racing. It was my only option. Whatever lay below couldn't be worse than what I faced now. I dropped the mirror, knowing deep down it wasn't about escaping anymore. It was about fighting back. In that moment of clarity, I leaped into the darkness. That's when everything went quiet: the shadows, the laughter, even the ground beneath me. I felt weightless, suspended in a void. But then I heard it, the echoes of laughter growing distant, fading away into the unknown. I had jumped, but into what? I braced myself for the impact, hoping that whatever I encountered next would show me the way out of this nightmare. The fall felt endless. All around me, darkness swallowed any sense of direction. I couldn't tell how far I was falling or how long I'd been suspended in the void. Panic kicked in as I began to brace for what I thought would be a harsh landing. But instead of hitting something solid, I drifted into something softer, like a thick fog wrapping around me. It was oddly silent here, a hush that felt heavy and thick. I opened my eyes, but there was nothing to see, just an expanse of gray, swirling shadows. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears, the only sound in this stifling silence. Then a flicker caught my attention. "Hello." The word fell into the murk, swallowed up before it could be answered. I strained to listen, but nothing came. Suddenly, a whisper brushed against my ear. "You're not alone." I shivered and spun around, only to find more clouds of gray swirling around me. "Who is there?" The voice repeated, clearer this time, "You have to wake up." But the urgency made it sound more like a warning than an invitation. "Wake up?" I echoed, uncertainty flooding my mind. "Wake up from what?" In response, the gray deepened for a moment before shifting like a tide. I felt the ground beneath me pulse, and then I was thrust forward, propelled by an unseen force. My feet hit solid ground, and the fog around me peeled away. I stumbled into a clearing, surrounded by massive trees that loomed like silent sentinels. They felt familiar, like the ones from the forest above, but darker, more sinister. The branches twisted and curled as if reaching for me. In the center of the clearing lay the remnants of what once was a campsite. A rusted pot, burned pieces of wood, and an old mattress with tattered edges. It all felt wrong, as if the echoes of past lives lingered in the air. That's when I noticed the figures. They were gathered in the shadows of the trees, faces hidden beneath hoods. I could see their hands twitching, stretching like branches ready to grab me. I instinctively took a step back, heart racing as I felt the weight of their gaze. "Help us," one of them whispered. The voice was hollow, lacking any real emotion. It sent a chill down my spine. "Why should I?" I shot back, my anger rising. "You're the ones who chased me." The figures closed in, their whispers jagged and frantic. "You don't understand. We were here once, like you." "Like me?" I said, confusion creeping in again. "What do you mean?" The shadows leaned closer, and for a fleeting second, one of them stepped into the light. The face was eerily familiar, my own face, but twisted, filled with despair and hunger. I recoiled, my mind racing. "Join us," it said, voice echoing my own feelings. "It's safe here." I shook my head sharply, backing away as dread settled in my gut. This wasn't safety, it was a trap. Without thinking, I turned and bolted back toward the murky haze. The clearing faded behind me, but I could hear their voices following, laced with mockery and an unsettling hunger. "You can't escape." Then everything went dark again. I hit the ground hard, and as I gasped for breath, a new realization dawned on me. I wasn't just fleeing shadows. I was running from a choice one I still hadn't made. As I lay there trying to catch my breath, I felt something cold brush against my fingers. I looked down to find the mirror, now cracked and golden shards glimmering in the dim light. I picked it up, and the moment I did, visions flooded my mind. Images flickered rapidly, what had been, what could be. I didn't know how to use it. But somehow, I had to try. That's when I noticed the eyes watching from the shadows, growing bolder as I stood. I had to act quickly before they closed in again. Gripping the mirror tighter, I felt a surge of defiance swell within me. "Let us see what you really are," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Before I could second-guess myself, I turned the mirror towards them, ready to uncover the truth. As I aimed the mirror at the shadows, a pulse of energy surged through me. The glass began to shimmer, reflecting the shadowy figures with an intensity one hadn't expected. For a brief moment, their forms twisted and morphed, revealing glimpses of who they used to be. It was enough to freeze my breath in my throat. Faces contorted in fear and desperation swam in the mirror's depths. Each expression was a memory I didn't own but felt profoundly in my bones. They were all people from the forest, people I had never known but who looked back at me as if I were part of their story. It was disturbing. "Stop. You shouldn't look." One figure shrieked, clawing at its own face, as if the truth burned. I felt the weight of its gaze trying to pull me in. I didn't want to believe I was connected to them, but the mirror seemed intent on showing me more. Another figure stepped closer, its features momentarily clear. I recognized it, someone from the legends told around campfires about lost souls in the woods. You can change things. Join us. It pleaded, terror lacing its voice. Join you? Why would I do that? I yelled, backing away further. My heart thundered as I fought against the fear creeping into my chest. The shadows writhed, growing restless, unwilling to allow me to see their truth. Just as I thought I could slip away again, the mirror flashed brightly, dazzling me momentarily. When I could see again, the clearing had shifted. The trees, once ominous, now twisted in grotesque fashion, narrowing in on me, their gnarled branches reaching as though trying to pull me back into the shadows. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted something at the edge of the clearing. It was another figure, standing apart from the rest. A girl, her features clear and bright, hair unkempt but full of life. She wasn't hunched or covered in a hood like the others. "Help me!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the haze. There was desperation in her eyes, a reflection of my own fears. "They're lying to you. Don't give in." I didn't know who she was, but something deep within me stirred at her plea. "What do I do?" I shouted back, the mirror slipping slightly in my grasp. "Find the truth. Break the cycle," she urged, but the shadows were closing in fast. Their whispers transformed into growls, a cacophony of longing and anger. "You belong to us. Let go," they chanted, now desperate to pull me into their depths. My grip on the mirror faltered as I started to feel the weight of their presence pressing down on me, suffocating. The awareness of my choice loomed heavy as I glanced back at the girl, then at the shadows, and finally at the mirror. The visions intensified, my reflection warred with their faces, horrific and haunting. I closed my eyes, drew a breath, and yelled, "No." I thrust the mirror toward the shadows, determined to break free from their draw. As the light spread, the shadows screeched, twisting and contorting. But with the brightness came clarity. I glanced back toward the girl, and before I could even think, I dashed toward her. Just as I reached out, the ground trembled, and everything went dark once more. I landed hard and rolled. Before I could get up, I heard the girl's voice echoing. "Remember, you're stronger than them." That S, when I felt it, a surge of power coursing through me, a choice made. I was no longer afraid of what lay ahead. I needed to find the truth, not just for me, but for all of them. Now I just had to figure out where to start. I lay there for a moment, the darkness pressing in around me, and tried to catch my breath. Adrenaline coursed through my veins, but I forced myself to focus. I had landed in a new place, still within the forest but somehow different. The air felt charged, like the calm before a storm. I pushed myself up, trembling as I looked around. The trees loomed taller here, their bark twisted and blackened. Vines crawled up their trunks like the fingers of something trying to escape. My heart raced as I scanned the area, hoping to find the girl or any sign of the shadows, but there was only silence. I was alone. "Where are you?" I whispered, unsure of who I was asking. I felt so disoriented, trapped in a realm that didn't belong to me. I stumbled forward, the ground uneven beneath my feet, and listened for any sound that would guide me. That's when I noticed the faint glow ahead, flickering like a distant lantern. My instincts screamed at me to be cautious, but hope fluttered in my chest. Maybe it could lead me to answers. I picked up my pace, weaving through the dense underbrush, every rustle setting my nerves on edge. As I drew closer, the light grew brighter, illuminating a small clearing. In the center, a stone pedestal stood, rough-hewn and covered in moss. Atop it, a crystal orb pulsed with the same energy I had felt earlier. I hesitated, a sense of dread creeping over me. Something in my gut warned me that this wasn't just an ordinary artifact. "What is this?" I murmured, reaching out. As my fingers brushed the surface, an electric shock jolted through me. Visions raced through my mind, flashes of memories that felt both alien and familiar. The girl's face, the silhouettes of the shadows, laughter echoing through the trees, but also pain, sorrow, and betrayal. I yanked my hand away, gasping for air. My heart felt heavy, like a stone in my chest. I looked around, half expecting to see the shadows lurking behind me, but only the trees stood still, silent watchers in this strange place. "I need to understand," I whispered, staring at the orb. It felt important, like it held the key to everything. Taking a deep breath, I prepared to touch the orb again, hoping it would reveal more. But just as I reached out, a rustle nearby caught my attention. I spun around, adrenaline surging again, and there she was, the girl from before, standing at the edge of the clearing. "Don't!" she shouted, her eyes wide with alarm. "It will consume you." "Why?" I shouted back. "Why are you here? Who are you?" She stepped forward hesitantly. "I'm the one who has been trapped here for years, watching. You have to be careful. The orb can show the truth, but it can also twist it." Before I could respond, the shadows emerged from the trees, dark mists coiling toward us. Their voices now hung in the air like screams. "You cannot escape. You are ours. Let go." With nowhere to run, I felt panic rising. "What do I do?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Trust yourself," the girl implored. "You hold the power to change everything." And that's when I realized, it wasn't about the orb or the shadows. It was about me. I had to choose. This wasn't just a fight for the lost souls, it was a fight for my own truth. As the shadows drew closer, I stood firm. The decision hung in the air like a promise, a challenge. I had to break free, not just for them, but for myself. Then everything went dark again. I woke up in a cold sweat, the darkness fading away like smoke. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of where I was. It took me a moment to remember this place, this cursed forest. I pushed myself up, the ground damp beneath my hands, and scanned my surroundings once more. The clearing was gone, the orb vanished. The trees loomed over me, their twisted forms casting eerie shadows as the light began to filter through the branches. But I wasn't alone anymore. I could feel something in the air, a heavier presence lingering. It sent a chill down my spine. I got to my feet, scanning the area intently as I moved cautiously. "Hello?" I called. My voice felt weak, lost in the silence. There was no response. I felt a prickle at the back of my neck, as if I were being watched. I turned, half expecting to see the girl again or the shifting shadows, but there was just the rustling of leaves and the faint sound of distant murmurs. Most of it faded before I could catch a word. As I walked further into the woods, a feeling grew in my gut. Something was wrong. I needed to figure out where the girl had gone and why she had warned me. The forest seemed to shift around me, the path twisting unexpectedly. I pressed on, each step feeling heavier than the last. That's when I noticed a strange glow weaving through the trees, not far ahead. Hesitant yet drawn to it, I approached slowly. As I got closer, my breath caught in my throat. It was another orb, smaller this time, hanging from a low branch. Its light pulsed gently, illuminating the darkness. Instinctively, I reached out, but something made me stop. A sudden rush of whispers enveloped me, the same chilling voices from before. "You shouldn't be here. You're not ready." I froze, a wave of panic crashing over me. Had the shadows returned? "Who is there?" I shouted, but the whispers continued, growing more frantic. "Leave. Before it's too late." The urgency in the voices sent shivers down my spine. A part of me wanted to turn and run, but I hesitated, torn between fear and the need to understand what kept drawing me deeper into this nightmare. The orb somehow felt more alive than the last one. It stirred something within me, a pull I couldn't resist. I stepped closer, trying to fight against the urge to touch it, but it was already too late. My hand brushed the surface, and another wave of visions exploded in my mind, the girl's face again, tears streaming down, looking directly at me. "This can't be real," I whispered. "Hold on to your truth." She echoed through the chaos of memories, her voice drowning in the cacophony. I was losing grasp of my thoughts, drowning in her emotions, both heavy and weightless at the same time. And then I was back in the clearing, staring at the first orb again. The shadows encircled it, their forms shifting, dark and forbidding. They were angry, desperate. I felt my chest tighten as I realized they wanted the orb for themselves. The weight of their intentions pressed down on me. Suddenly, the girl was there again, her expression urgent. "You must choose." Before I could respond, the shadows lunged forward, and I was falling. Everything went black once more. I opened my eyes to a dim light bleeding through the trees, the branches crisscrossing above me. I was sprawled on the ground, the cool earth grounding me as disorientation faded. The forest was eerily quiet, as if it held its breath, waiting for me to make the next move. Pushing myself up, I instinctively reached for the mirror. My heart sank as I discovered it was gone. Memories of the girl's pleading eyes and the chaotic dance of shadows flooded back. Somehow, I had to find the orb, the key to pulling this nightmare apart. I stood, the dim light casting long shadows as I moved through the forest, seeking any familiar signs. The oppressive weight of silence pressed upon me, filling me with a swelling anxiety. Had the forest shifted again? Did the shadows know I was here? As I took a cautious step forward, I spotted movement out of the corner of my eye, something darting between the trees. My heart raced, but I couldn't ignore that flicker of hope. It could be the girl. "Wait!" I called, urgent and desperate. The figure halted, just shy of the next grove. I recognized the wild hair and the ragged clothes. Hope surged. "It's you. I've been looking for you. Mark!" she exclaimed, voice bright but strained. "You shouldn't have come back." "I have to. I can't leave things like this. They need help." The shadowy whispers began to rise again, echoing around us, growing louder, angrier. It almost felt like they were retaliating against my defiance, pressing in around us. "There's no helping them," she cried, urgency flooding her words. "They'll only drag you down. You have to choose." A stab of doubt pierced my chest. "Choose what?" I asked, feeling the shadows encroaching slowly. "What does that even mean?" "Don't let them consume you, Mark." The orb, the shadows swelled, distorting my view of her. Their laughter melded into whispers, beckoning with a familiar treachery. "Join us," they hissed in a chorus, "leave the past. Choose this path." "No!" I shouted, shaking my head to clear the fog of fear. There was something to hold on to, something in me that still felt fiercely alive. I turned back to the girl, who stood just out of reach. "I want to help, but I won't give in to that." The shadows howled, spurred on by my declaration, trembling against the forest floor. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, darker than night and filled with a malicious energy. The girl's eyes widened. "You need to trust yourself, Mark. Help me break the cycle." I shouted, desperation pushing me forward. The air crackled with the charge of choice, of the potential to escape. Somewhere in the depths of that darkness was the truth of who I was becoming. Taking a deep breath, I called forth every ounce of courage I had. I could feel my heartbeat drumming out a rhythm of defiance against the encroaching shadows. I won't be afraid anymore. The forest ebbed and shifted, the whispers contrasting against my very determination. "Leave," they screeched, twisting further, but I stood firm. In that moment, a small orb of light flickered to life above my palm. I hadn't summoned it. It was the strength of all those who'd been lost, calling out, wedged between survival and despair. Before I realized what I was doing, I threw my hand in the air. The orb shot upward, piercing the growing darkness. Light exploded outward, illuminating every corner of the forest. The shadows wailed in fury, becoming disoriented beneath the weight of clarity. I could see their true forms, a mass of frightened souls, not malevolent but ensnared by their own fears and desires. No! Came the strangled growl of the largest shadow, its form contorting, desperately attempting to weave back into the trees. But the light chased them back. The girl's voice echoed from somewhere deep inside me, "You can be free. Remember." I reached out, my fingers brushing against the glowing orb, feeling its warmth, its possibility. With a final shout of defiance, "I choose freedom." I clenched my fist tight. In an explosion of brilliance, the light surged, wrapping around every shadow, every twisted figure, pulling them into its embrace. I could sense their collective fear softening, and shadows began to dissipate like smoke, released from their bond. As they faded, the girl's form shimmered, her brightness flooding the clearing. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice weaving through the air. "You saved us." And just like that, I felt myself being drawn back into the earth beneath me, spinning into a kaleidoscope of sensations: light, warmth, freedom. When I came to, I was lying on the bank of a creek. The moon glowed above, brilliant and full. There was no forest, no shadows, only the sound of water trickling while the cool breeze wrapped around me, a familiar caress of peace. I blinked in disbelief. I was free. But as I sat up, the stillness gripped me again. I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest still held secrets, the kind that would never fully reveal themselves. As I stood to leave, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder. Somewhere deep within the woods, I knew the shadows lingered, waiting for another soul lost in their web of whispers. I took a breath, steeling myself for the walk home, knowing that while I had escaped, the questions would always linger unanswered, waiting in the dark.